Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on the EPIC Online Support Organisation Expo. My name's Madeline. I'm from EPIC, which is Empowering Parents in Crisis. And to begin our evening, I will pass over to Roberta for the Acknowledgement of Country.
Thanks, Madeline. Welcome, everyone. EPIC would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we gather and connect today. We acknowledge the elders past and present and pay our respect to the clans of the Carrigal, Camaragal, Guyamay, Canalgal and Wallamagay, where this supportive community often gathers.
Thank you, Roberta. All right, so tonight is all about providing information and strategies to parents and carers of young people and those who work with young people or interact with young people as well, and to introduce you to some of the wonderful organisations that work with young people and families in our community. But before we start, I would like to wish everybody a happy World Kindness Day. November the 13th is World Kindness Day, and it's a day devoted to practicing and promoting kindness. So EPIC believes kindness feeds kindness. So therefore, kindness is at the core of our organisation. And as such, we would also like to wish ourselves a very happy second birthday. EPIC launched on World Kindness Day in 2021. And since then, we've grown to over 300 members and connected with more and more organisations who also operate from a place of kindness. And as a testament, there's some really awesome organisations here tonight who have come here voluntarily. So I thank you very much. So I think, is anyone hearing an echo? So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go through and each organisation will have a 2-minute introduction, and then it'll be followed by 3 panel discussions with the experts that we have brought along tonight. So thank you again, our experts. To kick it off, we might start with us, seeing as I've got the floor. So tonight from EPIC, we have myself, Madeline. I'm director and CEO. Roberta is my co-director. Siba is on the executive committee. And also with us tonight is Rowena, who's wearing 2 hats. Rowena is representing the Northern Centre. However, she's also the awesome EPIC secretary. So EPIC is empowering parents in crisis, and we provide peer support to parents and carers of young people, particularly young people in crisis and or experiencing mental health concerns. We're led by parents with lived experience, and we recognise that parents are first responders to their children. So we acknowledge that we need support in being able to do this wonderful job that we do, and it's a really hard job. Parents are often confused and isolated and scared, and they feel powerless to help their young person. So what we do is we provide a safe space, which is non-judgmental. It's a community that empowers parents with knowledge and skills and confidence so that they can best support their young person, their families, and also very importantly themselves. So EPIC offers peer support over the phone, in person, walks and events such as this. We draw on the hindsight of our members, and we collaborate closely with other youth and family support organisations, such as the ones that are here with us tonight. So we aim to remove barriers and demystify pathways to support. We have big ears and warm hearts, so we'd love to connect with you. Now I will pass over to Anthony Rickney from Kids.
Good evening, everyone. Happy birthday, EPIC. So since 2005, Kids Youth Counselling has focused on ensuring all young people in our community have access to barrier-free mental health support. Kids Youth Counselling is guided by the 8 principles for mental health services as set out by the National Children's Mental Health and Wellbeing Strategy. Firstly, accessibility. We offer free mental health and counselling support with no need for a GP referral or mental health care plan. Young people and their families can self-refer, and we offer convenient appointments close to home or school. We're really focused on early intervention, and we believe that providing help early before issues become severe is incredibly important. The majority of young people who access support from kids' youth counselling do so before they reach clinical levels of psychological distress. We're individually centred in that we tailor our counselling to meet the unique needs of each individual, ensuring that young people work with the same clinician throughout, building a strong therapeutic relationship. Our focus is on ensuring that young people only have to tell their story once. We're strengths-based. At KIDS, we focus on identifying and nurturing a young person's strengths to enhance their self-identity, resilience, and life skills. We're needs-based. Our support is based on the specific challenges young people face, from anxiety and depression to other serious issues. We offer unlimited counselling sessions, providing help to young people and families for as long as they need it. We're holistic. At KIDS, we consider the whole person, addressing their overall well-being and functioning in various contexts, and directing young people to additional supports at the right time. We're systemic. We collaborate with the young person's family and support network, creating a coordinated approach to mental health and overall well-being. And we're feedback informed. So KIDS clinicians use real-time data on a young person's well-being to inform our support, allowing us to track progress and make improvements. And finally, at KIDS, we're committed to the no wrong door approach to supporting young people and families, and work closely with all the services, many of whom are represented here tonight, to get young people to the services that can provide them with the right support at the right time.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. Ryan?
Good evening, everyone, and happy second birthday to Epic as well. So my name is Ryan and I'm from Headspace. So Headspace is the National Youth Mental Health Foundation. We have over 150 locations nationwide, and the Chatswood Centre is the local centre for pretty much the whole North Shore area. So we do early intervention for young people aged 12 to 25, and we work mainly in the mild to moderate range. So really trying to help young people at the earliest stage possible with whatever their concerns may be. We have a multidisciplinary team that's made up of psychologists, mental health social workers, youth counsellors, as well as GPs. And our GPs don't need to be the young person doesn't need to be linked up with a mental health clinician to link in with our GP. So especially with how times are, we know that trying to find a bulk billing GP can be quite tough. So young people can come into our GP services as well if need be. As mentioned, we are a completely free service. So all our funding is covered through Medicare and the local public health network, the Sydney North Health Network. And like Anthony said, we are also committed to the no wrong door approach. So if any young person comes into our service, even if we may not be the right fit for them, we will help facilitate referrals into all the wonderful services here and all the wonderful services that are in our region as well, to ensure that the young person gets the best care possible.
Thank you, Ryan. Rowena?
Happy birthday, Epic. Such a wonderful occasion tonight. My name's Rowena. I'm the Programs Manager at the Northern Centre, and I'm here with Sarah, who's our Team Leader for Family Support and Family Worker, and you'll hear from her later. We're based in West Ryde, and we deliver 3 key programs across Northern Sydney: casework support for people who are at risk of homelessness. We support people who've left domestic and family violence and are seeking someone to assist them to coordinate services as they navigate a life free of violence. And perhaps most relevant to tonight's audience, family and parenting support. We've got a team of qualified and experienced family workers who can support you as you navigate the challenges and celebrate the successes you may experience on your parenting journey. Through individual support, we can work with you to build your confidence and your parenting skills. But you might also find a parenting program suits you better, a place where you can not only learn new parenting strategies and skills, such as emotion coaching or how to have tough conversations, but a place where you realise that you aren't the only parent who's finding it hard. Parents usually connect with us over a 3-month period, and many like to go away and give things a go on themselves and come back for a check-in. We're your parenting partner until your child turns 18. When you connect with us, we'll have an initial chat. However, you might need to wait 4 to 6 weeks for a family worker to be available to work with you. But during this time, we can provide you with targeted referrals to other supports you might need. Our services are free of charge, can be delivered face-to-face, via Zoom, over the phone, and we're very fortunate to have a Mandarin and a Korean-speaking family worker as part of our team. So if you live in the Ryde, Hunters Hill or Ku-ring-gai local government area or have a close connection to these 3 LGAs, please give us a call. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rowena. Helen from StreetWork.
Thanks so much, Madeline. Happy birthday, Epic. That is wonderful. We've most of us here have probably journeyed with you, so congratulations on achieving this amazing milestone. Hello, everybody. My name's Helen Banyue. I'm the CEO of StreetWork. StreetWork's been operating since 1980, so we think that we're, know what we're doing and have had great success for the last 43 years in delivering service to vulnerable young people. We do this through a one-on-one mentoring program where we link a qualified youth caseworker with a vulnerable young person, and they journey together. Look, the young people that we work with are all aged 11 to 18 and are impacted by one or more of the following risk factors, whether it's, a little bit of an interaction with the police. It could be school disengagement, poor mental health. It could be, social isolation, at risk of homelessness as well. So normally the young people we work with are, impacted by more than one of those risk factors. It is actually a goal-based program. So the young person, first of all, needs to be a voluntary participant. So as much as many parents or many other organisations, want us to force their young person to participate, it is voluntary. And the young people have to set goals to address the risk factors that are impacting their lives. We call ourselves community connectors. So we will, our youth caseworkers will establish rapport, build trust, and have fun with these young people. And then we actually then connect them to the specialist services who then do the heavy lifting when it comes to the risks that are impacting them. So it may be a referral to a mental health service, or it could be a referral and support while the young person seeks drug and alcohol counselling, or it could actually be that support person sitting with them in the court, the courtroom while their charges are being heard and so forth. We normally work with young people for as little as 3 months. And then, depending on the risks and the goals that they want, it could be, of course, longer than that. We work with these wonderful other organisations and many more that are sitting here, and we're really pleased to be part of this amazing community that is supporting young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. It is a great community. Okay, and next up, can we hear Rachel?
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Rachel from SDECC, so Sydney Drug Education and Counselling Centre. So we offer specialised AOD counselling for young people aged 12 to 25 in the Northern Sydney region. So we have a counselling centre in St Leonard's and Manly. We're cost-free. They don't need a Medicare card. It's also not time limited, and we often say that we have a revolving door. So we adapt to work with young people that they might come for a little bit, have an assessment and get a little bit of support, go away for a bit and then come back when they need us. We also support parents for our parenting program called Paving Waves, and I'll get a bit more detail into that later on. Okay, thanks.
Awesome, thanks, Rachel. Justine from PALM.
Yes, hi, Madeline. Thank you. Congrats on 2 years. It's fantastic. Happy birthday. Hi, everybody. I'm Justine. I'm the manager of Noffs PALM program here in Randwick. We are a residential treatment program, in brackets rehab for young people aged 13 to 18 years of age. Our young people come in here to address serious drug and alcohol related difficulties or issues. We usually find in that age bracket they don't quite have an addiction at that time, but usually their drug use is problematic. We operate as a therapeutic community, and the program goes for 3 months. However, I do like to stress we encourage our young people to come in because they even can take away quite a lot from this program in a period of 2, 3, 4 weeks, because it can be quite intensive. We have staff that are professional staff that are trained in, working through complex trauma, AOD, alcohol and drug issues, challenging behaviours, complex needs, mental health, and so forth. The program offers also counselling, so each young person is assigned their own counsellor when they come in. We also do help with family support and group work as well. Once a young person enters PALM, they liked acronyms a few decades ago, they can have a CALM worker, which basically is an aftercare worker. So whether the young person has been here for 2 days or completed the whole program, that aftercare worker will stay with them for an unlimited amount of time, and they will call and connect in with the client and see if they're going to school, help them with counselling, any type of thing they have on their list that they need to address. Their CALM worker will help them do that. We accept referrals from all different pathways. The cost for a young person is $165 a week. However, I do like to stress too that quite often we'll waive that for families that are struggling. What else can I tell you? We have another PALM down in Canberra as well, and we've just opened up one which is quite exciting in Caboolture in Queensland. So yeah, I think that's about all from me, really. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Justine. We have Lucy from Clara High School, and I just want to put a little side note here that in the email that I'll send later on, it will actually refer also to the wonderful work Lucy does through B2B parenting. So there's it's awesome information and resources there for parents. So over to you, Lucy.
Thank you, Madeline. Happy birthday. Always love to have a bit of a celebration, and I have to say thank you to all the other services on this call, because we've used an awful lot of them. I learnt my trade through Helen Banu and StreetWork, so enormous appreciation to her. So the student support officer role at a high school is really a bit like a concierge. There's someone who connects within the school and outside of the school. It's a Department of Education initiative. They should be in every high school across New South Wales. Some schools don't have them because they maybe struggle to recruit, or they might be changing, but every high school should have one. So that's a great contact for your young person. We don't tend to be the contact for the parent, and that's kind of worth knowing. Your contact for the parent will be more likely to be your year advisor. And the purpose of that is so that the young person has someone at school that they can connect to, that they trust, that they feel is their person. And then it's slightly separate from anything that has anything to do with the parent. But we do also we work in that concierge on the inside to see, okay, maybe that needs to be triaged to the counsellor, to the deputy, to the year advisors. Maybe it might be a whole school program. We might be looking at targeted programs. We might be looking at one-to-ones. But we also can support with finding volunteer projects and getting people into a little bit of giving back. And the only other thing that's worth saying is we also act as a point of referral out into the community. So I'll talk about it later with specific issues that are brought up, but if your young person is struggling, they're a really good first referral for them to decide whether counselling is even for them, because most SSOs will know how to encourage a young person to self-refer for counselling or look for that counselling if they're a little bit afraid to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lucy. It's a really great asset that schools have to have an SSO. So thank you. Okay. Kath from Mission Australia, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Kath Best from Mission Australia, and girls, Madeline, Roberta and Seba, this EPIC is an amazing program, and I congratulate you on your 2nd birthday, and I know there will be many, many more. So as I say, I'm the youth counsellor. Across the Northern Sydney region, Mission has 9 programs in homelessness, youth, disability, mental health and alcohol and other drug sectors. I'm part of the Northern Sydney Youth Early Intervention Homelessness Service, and we support young people from the age of 12 to 24 who are at risk of homelessness. It is a free service. We provide individualised case management, case counselling support, tenancy support, advocacy and referral, and access to the appropriate services, and because we all work as a community. Our caseworkers are incredible. They'll walk beside the young person until, you know, their goals are achieved, and nothing is too small, and they perform miracles. We have offices in Hornsby and Brookvale. Although we are on the casework especially is an outreach program, and we'll meet the clients wherever it is comfortable and convenient for them. We cover the Hornsby, Ryde, Ku-ring-gai, Northern Beaches, North Sydney, Willoughby, Hunters Hill and Lane Cove areas. Counselling tends to be done in our offices, although we do have sessions at school or at other secure locations. We also work out of the Avalon Youth Hub in Avalon every Thursday afternoon. At the moment, we have capacity to see new counselling clients in Hornsby and Brookvale. We've probably got about a 4-week wait. And with case management at the moment, it's a 4-week wait. But yeah, so it's an amazing organisation, and we work with them until their needs are met.
Awesome. Thanks, Kath. It is good working alongside all of your organisations. It's really, really good. Really good. Okay. Over to Sam from Youth Up Front.
Thanks, Madeline. Happy birthday, and thank you very much for including us. We're, I guess, probably a little bit different. So Youth Up Front this year is celebrating its 30th year, so somewhere in the middle between the older ones and the younger ones. Our organisation is unique in that we actually focus on the career and transition support side. So we've predominantly been in operation working in partnership with secondary schools. They're our main stakeholder, being primarily funded by the Department of Ed, and currently we're working with just under 40 secondary schools across Northern Sydney. We're often that gateway, I think, through you know, behaviour and disengagement in school to be able to support schools to then connect into other services. So our team primarily in that student engagement space are youth workers, but we have a really strong focus on vocational education. Over the years, we've actually become more of a collaborative approach to supporting young people because their needs have become more complex. And for us, our services fall into 3 key pillars: so skills for life, skills for work, and skills for wellbeing. So I guess primarily our whilst we do say we'll support young people aged 12 to 25, primarily we are focused on secondary schools, secondary school age rather. So some of the key things, I guess, that we engage with are around that career and transition space. So we run an annual event where there's around 2,500 young people attend to support them with all ranges of career and transition options. We work with around 200 plus young people in the student engagement space, which comprises of regular programming, so a day a week out of school, anywhere from sort of 4-week sort of chunk for bespoke programs through to full-term programs, so anything from 10 weeks, 20 weeks. And in some cases, we've actually got some schools that have covered a full 35 weeks of the year. So we've got, you know, a few weeks at either end. Generally, they're kids that are wanting to find a balance between what their needs are at school from an education point of view and supporting them in transitioning out successfully into other lifelong learning, so apprenticeships, traineeships, etc. We also link over 2,000 young people into industry placements, working side by side with local businesses. So we're very lucky. That's probably the foundational program for us. So we have a really strong partnership with communities through business, families and schools. Really proud, just throwing out something that's just nothing to do with tonight, but we're very proud to be celebrating our 3rd year as a community partner with the Manly Ringer Seagulls, which I think is a really great opportunity for us to actually showcase how important young people are in our community and the involvement and collaboration that sport brings into a lot of young people's lives. And then just as to what Anthony said, and many others as well, we work with a lot of services, including the ones on panel tonight and many others, and definitely embrace the no wrong door approach, which for us supports parents to relieve some of that stress in trying to seek support when they need it the most. There's nothing worse than contacting a service and not knowing whether that's what you need or not, and getting an answer that says, sorry, that's actually not what we do. So whilst it's not something that any service is funded for, it's definitely something that we're trying to foster across all services to be able to make sure that for parents, it makes it easier to just ask, because that's often the hardest first step. So thank you.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Thanks, Sam, and happy 30-year birthday and 3-year anniversary. It's a wonderful milestone. Well done. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to hand over now to Siba. We've got our first panel discussion on depression or anxiety. So I'll just hand over to Siba to facilitate.
Thank you very much, Maddie, and happy birthday to Epic, which was your dream and vision. And we're here 2 years onwards. Everything starts with a step. Really grateful and privileged to have all the people on the call, especially the 3 panelists I'm going to be speaking to, which is Anthony. I've had the pleasure of talking to him before from Kids, Ryan from Headspace, and the Northern Centre. And we are tapping into a topic that's unfortunately very current and touches everybody's life. So depression and anxiety in young people manifest in many ways, and the parents are often sensing there's something not going well for their young person, but they don't know how to approach it, and they don't feel they're equipped to support. And since Epic recognizes that parents and carers are the first responders to their children, they're with them through the good and the not so good, and often guided by circumstances beyond their control. It can become extremely overwhelming when they cannot access counseling. It's even worse when they can and their young person just doesn't want it. What can we do? Help. I would like to start with Ryan and say, what kind of mental health concerns do you see presenting in young people at Headspace in Chatswood, since it's your domain?
Yeah, we see a wide range of mental health concerns coming through, but I think 2 of the really prevalent concerns are definitely depression and anxiety, and we see young people coming through with varying levels of depression and anxiety as well. Anxiety can take on many different forms. It could be social anxiety, it could be from academic pressures, it could be from multiple stresses in their life. So we know that it's not just one little bit that we're seeing many different concerns coming through in regards to anxiety, and we know that this can lead to depressive episodes in young people as well. So I think these 2 are definitely some of the main things we see coming through, and we also see a little bit of comorbidity as well. So if a young person may be experiencing something else, we know that there's likely to be a bit of anxiety or a bit of depression that will come along with that as well.
Yeah. Not easy. Considering your experience, do you have any tips for families to encourage their young people to engage with such support being offered by places like Headspace?
Yeah, I guess I want to firstly say that getting support at any age is tough. sometimes the hardest thing is making that first step and acknowledging that you do need help. So I think that this is something that we all encounter at all stages of our lives. But I think especially with young people, it can be really tough sometimes to encourage them to get that support when you know they need it, or you get the sense that they need it, but they may be a little bit hesitant. So I think a couple of things to really consider is to try and be a role model for them. So that can be starting those conversations around a little bit of mental health. It doesn't need to be deep diving into mental health itself, but it can just be asking how they're going each day. It could just be, oh, I've noticed you're a little bit down. Do you want to talk about something? A really kind of soft entry point into exploring what might be going on. Encouraging, we also want to try and encourage them to talk, but we don't want to force them. Young people don't want to feel like they're being forced to do something these days. We know that if we force them to do something, they're going to be a bit resistant to it, especially straight up. So we want to encourage them to talk without forcing the issue. So again, just that real soft entry saying, if I've noticed, you've seemed a little bit upset lately, do you want to have a chat about it? And if they don't, leave it there for that night and just say, no worries. If you do want to come to me, you're always welcome to come have a chat at any time. We also want to encourage listening without judgment. So we don't want to be judgmental if they do start to open up, because if we start to judge, even in our expressions, then we know that can be a real turner for young people, and they are likely to go back into their shell. And the last thing, I guess, is to try and be a little bit interested in what's going on with them. That can be a really good way to start those conversations, find out what their interests are, talk to them about that, and that can be the segue into starting those conversations around getting support.
So you're suggesting to be curious?
Definitely.
To notice trends, non-judgmental, and to take interest in their day-to-day life.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Find out a little bit about what they enjoy, what's going on, and that can really spark those conversations.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Ryan. I'd like to move to Anthony, who's been supporting young people for many, many years. And you will have seen interaction between parents and their young people, and her young people discussing their parents. So let's talk about the good things. What have you seen that parents have done that, when supporting their young people, that worked for them?
Yeah, Super, I think it's a great question. I mean, first, we just want everyone to know, and hopefully you get a sense of this by kind of being part of tonight's celebration, is that you're not alone, and that in your role as a parent, providing consistent love and support can really make a significant difference in your child's journey to managing anxiety and depression. I think the other thing that we really want to highlight is that it's okay to seek help for yourself as well, and that you don't need to navigate this journey alone. It's part of the reason why we think EPIC is such a wonderful organisation, because it does really support parents and carers in terms of navigating this journey, which can often be very painful and challenging at times. I guess we think about all change as being in the context of the quality of the relationship that parents and carers are able to kind of build and maintain with their young person. But we also know that relationship can take a bit of a hit, particularly when parents and carers are worried about what's going on for their young person. They can't seem to quite figure out what the problem is. So it can take time to support young people and to kind of refine that relationship once you understand what they need to help make things better. And oftentimes that can come through the source of a diagnosis, like getting a diagnosis of anxiety or depression. I think picking up on what Ryan was saying before, that open communication is really important. One of the things that we really do encourage parents and carers to think about is, before you even go and raise your concerns with a young person, actually really think about and prepare for that conversation ahead of time. Think about the outcome that you want to achieve from that conversation, and stay focused on that outcome rather than necessarily kind of getting, that can also be very helpful in terms of avoiding getting caught up in the understandable emotion of trying to understand what's going on for your young person. think about the timing of that conversation. And Ryan's raised a really interesting point, which is oftentimes we think that we're staying calm or that our tone of voice is kind of neutral. But what we also know is that young people, particularly those who are feeling anxious or maybe feeling really depressed or sad, are often very sensitive to these kind of interactions and sensitive to what it can mean to be reaching out and asking for help. So again, sometimes you can even just practice in the mirror how you're going to approach this conversation, the kinds of things that you're going to say, and how you monitor your tone of voice in relation to your young person can be really important. Something else that we think is really important when you're approaching a young person and wanting to understand how to best to support them in terms of their experience of anxiety and depression is to get educated yourself, because this knowledge will help you to empathize and provide the appropriate support for your young person. No one knows your young person better than you. And so again, the professionals that sit around you, the teachers, the other mental health professionals, they'll all be sort of looking at your knowledge about that young person to help them understand how they can best support. And the final one that we really like to highlight, particularly around depression and anxiety, is the importance of establishing a daily routine to create that sense of stability for a child. That consistency in particular, where a young person is very anxious, can help to reduce anxiety and improve their overall well-being. So Siva, there's a few tips that we think have worked really well.
Fantastic. So just to recap, be intentional, prepare yourself for the conversation, educate yourself, practice, and then build it with consistency. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Anthony. Sarah, can you please imagine that I'm a parent who suspects that my young person is struggling with anxiety and depression? I want to support them, but I'm not sure where to start. Can you walk me through a scenario of what happens if I pick up the phone, just being to you?
You sure can ask me. I suppose I'll talk to you a little bit about how and when you connect with a support like ours. So we have parents and carers call us for a range of different reasons, and we're here to support them and you guys to find the support that you need. There are a few ways to contact our service. You may already be working with the service and you can ask them to connect you with a family support service like ours here at the Northern Centre. You can call us directly on a main office line, and you can also connect through the website. So many parents prefer to do something like this because they can give us a few details in a few sentences about what they would like support around. Then we'll give you a call to contact you to let you know that we've received that request for support, and our intake coordinator will then give you a call so that we can get you on that list for support. So the question often is, what does that call look like? It can be really daunting to make that first call for support, and we want to make it as easy as possible. Just like all the services here, everyone wants to try and make it as easy as possible for you when you pick up that phone. We really understand how hard it can be to make that first call. So what does this call look like? So we're going to be asking you around your concerns and explaining to you how we work with families. We would ask you about how you're managing with what's going on with your young person, because you're really important too. We need to make sure that you're doing okay and look at how we can support you. We would ask you if you need to know information about how to connect with a mental health professional, counsellor, psychologist for your young person, services such as Kids and Headspace that are here tonight, or talk to you through the process of how to get a referral from a GP to get that additional support. We'd talk to you about your young person's school engagement, and if you have any open communication with the school already, or what does that look like? We'd look to how we can support you in that domain. We would let you know that through our family support individual option, we can support you to support the young person. We can help you to understand mental health and provide you with information and strategies to support your relationship with your young person. The family support is about getting the opportunity to reflect on your parenting and how you want to be as a parent, and be supported how to make the changes that you want to be able to make within your family. We may also discuss with you an option of doing a parenting program, such as engaging adolescents or tuning into teens that Rowena had mentioned there in our introduction. Some parents sometimes prefer to come along to a group program rather than engage in the individual support at the beginning of service, or sometimes even at the end after they've done a bit of work individually with one of our family workers. And the last thing we'll do is explore with you any further referrals to support you may need. As an example, a referral to EPIC. You might need that peer support with other parents, financial counselling, one of the other services that's sitting here on the panel. We might even refer you along to information in evenings just like this one. So the idea is that if you give us a call, we want to make it easy for you. And I suppose that's sort of the main thing that we want, the service is here to help you out. That's kind of what the call looks like when you reach out for support.
Thank you very much. That is reassuring, Sarah. And it sounds like I've heard this term recently, white glove service. So it's like a butler service where somebody will guide you and give you that extra support to understand what you have to offer.
Yes.
So you can utilize it better.
Yeah, that's right. And we are that support to land for parents to come in and just talk about that parenting, get the emotional support for yourselves so you can be the best parent that you want to be for your young person.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Now to the three of you, Anthony, Ryan, and Sarah. You've done this for day after day, year after year, and you have got a wealth of experience. If you were to distill this knowledge as a result of your work and give a nugget of wisdom and hope, what would you tell your parents who are worried about their kids and the potential of anxiety or depression? Anthony, start, please.
Sure. Look, I think what we would sort of say is that hopelessness is infectious. And so, how do you find hope and how do you hold on to hope, particularly for your young person when they're going through such a difficult time? It's one of the mantras that we have here at Kids. And so how to find hope in that really challenging time is something that we definitely think about as clinicians. One of the ways that we think is really important, or one of the nuggets that we'd like people to take home, is that it's important for parents and carers to model coping strategies to their young people. So make sure that you're demonstrating healthy coping mechanisms yourself so that your child can learn by example. Even though you feel like your young person's not watching or isn't paying attention, trust me, they really are. And so there's a range of different models of coping strategies out there. It could involve relaxation techniques, problem solving, mindfulness, hitting the gym, whatever it is. But it's important to continue to model those positive coping strategies to your young person.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Ryan?
I think from my experience working with young people, it's definitely that young people do really appreciate the role that parents do, even if they may not always show it or say it to you directly, they will say it to someone. So know that they do appreciate you. They do really love everything that you do for them. And as Anthony said, they will pick up on things that you do. So again, encourage you to really be that positive role model for them, because the habits that you put down, they will pick up in the end.
And Sarah?
I'll weave a couple in just very quickly. So if I may. So I suppose I'm coming in from that parenting angle to think about as parents, you don't need to show up to every argument that you're invited to by your young person. Ensure you have your shield of armor on and don't take everything they say personally. And finally, and I think probably most importantly, is working on trying to maintain relationship with your young person, and finding moments of connection is just really, really important. It can be just those little tiny moments where you're on the same page, even if it's just for a glimmer you know, of amount of time. So looking for connection points.
Amazing. I think all of this has been extremely useful. I'm sure our parents listening could really take from the wealth of your experience and move forward in their journeys with their kids. And with that, I would like to move the piece to Roberta. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sibber, and thanks Anthony, Ryan and Sarah, all very insightful, and yeah, wish I'd had some of that knowledge at the beginning of my journey, as well as the information that's about to come from Helen, Rachel and Justine, who are focused or have interests in the alcohol and other drug space and experience with young people not coming home and encounters with the police. So just to set the
Roberta, you froze.
Okay, I think because we've had an extra panelist join, Roberta's being kicked off. So just a second, what I might do is, what I'm going to do for everyone is just for a moment, we're going to be out of...
Go through.
Oh, there's Roberta. Roberta, you disappeared for a sec. Tom Dent has actually joined us from StreetWork. Is he? Because I can't see everyone on the seats. Can we see Tom on one of the seats?
He's not on a seat, Madeline. He's just sitting at the top of us. So
okay.
We'll come down to make sure that we're all well behaved. So
okay,
definitely there. I think Roberta might have just lost some connectivity. So
yeah, okay. Welcome aboard, Tom. I'll leave you up there to guide us from above, and I'll hand back over to Roberta. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Madeline. Sorry, not quite sure how far I got through the setting the scene, but I guess it's establishing, you know, I'd just like to pick the brains of Helen or Tom from StreetWork, Rachel from SDECC, or Justine from PALMs, you know, how we deal with these issues and help parents manage the shock and the fear that they're feeling. My first question is for StreetWork, so Helen or Tom. The young people that StreetWork supports often find themselves in trouble with the police, whether that's through drug use, stealing, graffiti, fighting, you know, or selling drugs to help sustain their habits. This is particularly challenging for parents because they need to learn how to advocate for the young person at the same time as setting boundaries and keeping the young person safe. So what can parents do when there are legal concerns? Helen or Tom, I'll hand over to you.
Roberta, I might just take this opportunity just to introduce Thomas Dent, who is our Youth Services Manager, who actually helps and supports our crew of youth caseworkers who often end up at the police station advocating for young people. So over to you, Tom.
Yeah, I think that's probably an important thing to think of, is to answer that question is, in what situation are you and your child at the time? And I think probably let's go to the first time there might be the information given to you that your child is in trouble with the law is when they're arrested and they're in custody. And that's where our StreetWork advocates will find young people as well. I think probably the important thing to think of is when your child is in a lockup, in a cell. I don't know how many people here have been to the local cells, but I might try to paint a picture for you as someone who's gone out to support many young people at the local police stations. I'll give you a bit of an extreme example. Number one, it's cold. Those police cells are cold. They're uncomfortable, and they're little spots in the custody holding cells as people are being processed. And it's not just young people in those spaces. And we'll think of like maybe your child's 13, 14, 15, we'll sit on the young end, we'll say 13, 14. So imagine you're 13 and 14, and in the cell next to you is an older gentleman who is drunk off his face, and he's swearing and he's vomiting, and that vomit might be now going towards your cell. And then next to you is maybe a very irate sex worker who's yelling obscenities and all kinds of crazy things. And there's your child in the middle of those cells. And I've seen young people in exactly that situation. And it's terrifying. And even though things might be really tough at home and there might be the challenges there and things feel like they're falling apart, probably the biggest thing I can stress to all parents is when you go to support your child at the police station, when they're in that situation, you might feel a lot of embarrassment, shame, anger towards your child, but that time and space is not the time and space to communicate that. That's the time that your child really needs you to be there for them and to feel that they've made mistakes, but you love them and you're there for them. And you might feel still the need to communicate something about when we get home or later, we're going to talk about this. But right now, are you okay? And, let's get through this and let's maybe take our mind off this process, because you can be at the police station for quite a long time. But if there's just that one thing I can communicate in all instances when things are tough, when it gets to a legal point, is just to make sure your child knows that you're there for them without condition, because there's still going to be legal processes and steps afterwards to take, and there are people who can help. The people who are there usually managing the custody spaces at the police station can be quite good, and what they have to do is get your child to call legal aid. There is a youth legal aid hotline that you can call to get legal advice. So that can come. You don't have to sort out and solve a crime there, or, and the police are, quite often stretched thin. There's a police shortage numbers at the moment. So really they'll appreciate people who can just sort of say, we'll deal with all the emotional stuff later. Right now, let's get our advice from legal aid. And then post being in the cells, there are wonderful youth officers at all the local police stations that you can contact and say, can we sit down and have a chat to get information about what's really happening for my child? And those youth officers at the police stations too are a through line to the PCYCs that have then police run activities and programs to help get your child into to change, I guess, their relationship with the police. And what I'm getting to with all of this as well, from when you first see your child in the cell and you're trying to create that warmth, that love, to let your child know that you are still close to them, is so important to then take to the next level for them to feel that the police are there as a support for them too. And that the people at the PCYC are there as a support, as supportive communities, because what you are competing against are all those factors outside of the home that might be drawing your child to them. If something is happening at home that is breaking down, that is potentially encouraging your child to find belonging and connection elsewhere with negative influences, people who are having more say in terms of encouraging them towards drug use or criminal activity, you've got to create something that competes against that and help make that belonging and connection and that warmth happen elsewhere. And so I can say that the police, there are definitely ways that they can improve. I would like them to see provide safe and more comfortable spaces for young people in custody. But in terms of what we have to work with right now, these programs, I've seen them work really, really well, so that if a young person can feel like the police aren't judging them, I actually wanted to see them succeed in PCYC programs by attending the other meetings, and there's removing the shame and guilt, then you've got then a really good step to compete against the local drug dealers or their mates who say, we're not going to judge you. We're going to make you feel comfortable. We're going to make you feel warm and connected. And here are some drugs to take your mind off all this stress and things happening at home. So I hope that kind of makes sense. And I hope it's given a little bit of an overview that there are support networks at each place. If you do find yourself a court, there are wonderful youth workers and even mental health workers at the local children's courts. Sometimes you do have to ask for them. I think it can be worthwhile saying, if you're there for a long stay at court, who are the people here to speak to my child and support? At each stage, there are people who can give you help and information. But I hope it makes sense in the way that a lot of what can occur if a young person is finding themselves in trouble with the law and connected to, or finding an outlet in drug and alcohol. It's knowing how to strategically compete against that by making sure that your child is getting all that encouragement to come back home, rather than the guilt and shame that can drive them straight back out to the community. So and Helen, you've been here for the whole evening. Unfortunately, I had to get kids to settle, so I hope I'm on topic and I'm sort of giving some of the information that can help some of us here. What's your take on things?
It's not a two-way conversation, Tom. Sorry.
Oh, one. No, I mean,
You
for
stole-
Helen, in case Helen might have
No,
had something as the
that's
bit of the backup.
fine. That's fine.
Tom, I think
we
you-
do have a limited time, so I think everything that you shared has been great to help demystify the situation for parents who have found themselves in that spot. And sorry, Helen, to cut you off, but we do have to move over to the other participants. I'll come back to you, Helen, when we're asking for the sentence of hope for the families after the next two participants have responded. My next question is for Rachel from SDECC. And SDECC is an organisation that helps with young people and families around alcohol and other drug concerns. So what advice would you give parents if they suspect alcohol and other drug use? Thanks, Rachel.
So the first piece of advice that I'd like to give parents is not to panic. So we know that developmentally young people are in their experimental years, and in many cases where young people experiment with AOD use, they will grow out of it. So it's really common for families who contact SDECC to be feeling anxious, fearful, and overwhelmed. So I want to validate that this response is very normal. So what we know about substance use is that in our society, it's highly stigmatized, which creates a barrier to support. So it's being criminalized and seen as immoral and often viewed as the individual's choice, and therefore being perceived as less deserving of support. So if you suspect that your young person is using substances, it may be a really good opportunity to reflect on your attitudes and get a little bit curious about any biases and beliefs that you may have before responding. So when parents suspect AOD use, a really common question that we hear is, what have I done wrong? So it's important to know that parents aren't the cause of their young person's substance use. However, at SDECC, we can help parents be more effective in the way they engage and respond to their young person. So we would like to invite parents to make contact with our service if they feel like their young person may be using, either just starting to experiment or using regularly. It's better to get support in the early stages rather than waiting until crisis. We think it's always a good idea to get more information. Just don't go Googling, because that will only scare you more. Rather, get support and information with the connection of services. So what we know from the research is that outcomes for young people with AOD use is far better when the parents are on board with the interventions. So the support that we can offer parents is through our 6-week program, Paving Ways. Paving Ways is a psycho-educational therapeutic group for parents and carers run by our counsellors who understand the complexities of problematic AOD use and associated mental health issues. It's a safe and confidential environment providing support, education, tools and strategies to help respond to the challenges that parents may be facing with their young person's AOD use. The groups run for 6 consecutive weeks in the afternoon, either from our St. Leonard's or Manly counselling centres, and we are also often online. Evaluation of the groups have been really positive. Some feedback we've received from parents is that it's given them more confidence to make changes and also learning about the need for self-care and setting boundaries. There is also the option to have counselling after programs, so this helps families get tailored support while applying the changes they've learned from Paving Ways. And we always make sure that young people and their families have separate counsellors so that confidentiality can be kept. What we see at SDECC is that when parents attend Paving Ways program first, 70% of the young people will then attend for individual counselling. So all services are free and confidential. No Medicare card is needed, and a self-referral service for parents. So in summary, if you do suspect that your young person is using substances, firstly, don't panic. Get more information with the connection of services, and you're welcome to call our service and chat more about what support you may be needed. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you very much, Rachel. And I can personally highly recommend Paving Ways. It was, just what I needed. Third speaker on this topic is Justine from Noffs PALM. And PALM offers residential treatment for young people aged 13 to 18. So Justine, if a parent learns that drug use has become problematic for their young person, how can they support them to engage with your service?
I think most importantly, it's been mentioned here a couple of times tonight, and that is conversations, talking, patience, perseverance. Even though that you may feel, absolutely frightened and out of your depth, just talking to your child and finding out They don't always tell you the exact truth or all the truth, but just trying to gauge and find out where they're at, what issues they have. And then, young people are usually at a pre-contemplative or contemplative thinking about it stage. And so I suppose for us to get young people into our program, there's a few different ways. And one is I'm always very open to a parent coming through and doing a service visit and having a walkthrough. I held a group here when I first started a year and a half ago, and I said to the young people, what is it that scares you about rehab? And they go, because we thought it was going to be a psych ward, we thought it was going to be like a hospital, we thought that you guys locked us up and never let us go. So there's a lot of fear and a lot of myths that run around, I think, going to a rehab. Another one was also they thought they had to stay the 3 months. Well, that's not true. So having chats, I think, being open to talking to, your child. We are very open to having them come through here for a walkthrough visit. I also have a site video, which I can email to different services or to parents, and you can sit your child down and show them a video what PALM is about. And that really decreases a lot of fears for the young person. I think just basically like what I said, just being supportive and just trying to be there for them.
That's great. Thanks, Justine. And it sounds like, planting the seed of that idea is often the best way to start.
That is the best way to start. Yeah.
So back to you, Helen. And as we asked earlier of Sarah, Ryan and Anthony, what's one nugget of wisdom or hope that you can share with parents and carers on the webinar tonight for those who might be experiencing alcohol and other drug issues, criminal activity, or a young person who's not coming home when they should be, or at all?
I think the key piece of information is demonstrate your love there and then, and support and keep supporting them. And it's not the time or the place to do that in the police cell. So I think young people, when they're in a spot of bother with the police, need to know that you are their support. So if for any reason you can't do it, you can encourage the police to contact our advocacy hotline, because we'll send out a volunteer who will do it just in your absence, so that you may think that you don't, you won't be able to, you might say something that will get your, young person into more trouble. They'll do it independently. So support, and keep supporting, and just show them that you love them and you're there for them.
That's great. Thanks, Helen. Lovely. Rachel, did you have any nuggets of hope?
My little nugget is that we can't stop you feeling fear, but getting support can help you to be more effective.
Yeah, brilliant. That's fantastic. And Justine, lastly from you.
Never, ever, ever give up hope. Young people make numerous mistakes in their young lives. However, they do learn a little lesson each and every time. Kindness was mentioned at the beginning by you, Madeline, and I can't express that enough. Kindness, love, patience, perseverance. Hang in there.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. There's some, really lovely words and some great guidance there tonight. So thank you. Madeline, over to you.
And I'm just going to bounce back over to Siva, who's going to go to our final discussion, which is Disengaged from School. So I'll just mute and hand over to Siva.
Thank you very much, Maddie and Roberta. Extremely topical, with a report that's just been published indicating there is 39% disengagement from school, and we have some amazing people who can shed some light and hopefully help parents who dialed in tonight understand this better. So Lucy, Catherine, and Samantha, we're talking about school disengagement, school refusal, school avoidance, school can't, some people would term them. These are just some of the names being used. Basically, it's school non-attendance. Statistics are staggering, and but they're not emotional. Statistics are just numbers. At the end of it, it is us living with a young person who's struggling to go to their school and to engage with these activities and with everything that school life brings. This becomes very stressful for the whole family. And society has certain expectations of parents as well as the young people. And when they're not met, there is friction, there is anxiety, there is guilt, there's confusion, even shame. How can we help? Can I please start with Lucy? As a school student support officer in local high school and a parent, you have a window of perspective to look into the schools and the students and the families. What are your top tips for parents if their young person is not wanting to go to school anymore?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to offer something here, because I think it's probably such a scary time when your young person decides to come home and shares that they're really struggling to go to school, and it can look very different for different students. So, for example, some may find that they are creating an illness in themselves, and that's their level of anxiety is increasing so much because they're finding it hard to tell you they just have very physical symptoms. And others, just it comes across as behavior where they just are doggedly refusing to go to school. Either way, for a parent at home, it's incredibly frustrating because you may have a job to go to yourself, and then you have to figure out actually how on earth do I, manage this situation. And sometimes you can have gone to work before your child goes to school and think that they're at school, and then get the message from school saying your child is not in period 1, and that's the first indication that you have that your child isn't at school. And it's a real juggle for working parents. It's a real juggle to try and figure out actually what's going on. And the danger, because we could just say, oh, it's just a couple of days, or they need a mental health day. But the challenge is that for each day they're late, or each day they have off, it adds up, and actually it turns out to be quite a lot at the end of a year. So they don't very often just not turn up. It starts with being late for school, missing home group, or missing first period, or coming in partway through first period. So there are quite a few warning signs before there's an absolute no, I'm not going to school now. The challenges that are around it mean that they can sometimes lose where they are in the class, and then they feel ashamed because they're not keeping up and they don't know what they're talking about, or they've missed some key information in maths. And so sometimes it's actually difficult to get into that class, which makes them miss the class more, which makes them fall behind more. And sometimes it's peers. If you are not totally connected with your peers, it actually makes it really difficult to want to be at school because you don't have that connectedness. So there are lots of different ways I would suggest people go about actually trying to get themselves back in. One of them is very early communication with the school. Your first point of contact would be your head teacher or of well-being, or the deputy for your year group. Obviously, the SSO might be someone the young person could go to. And remember that it's not all or nothing. You don't have to be at school the whole day or not at all. They can actually work with you to find a plan to help your young person get back to school. If it's worth, they'll be asking, is it about uniform? Is it about assessments? Is it about presentations? But we're just really trying to get behind why they're not coming, and that conversation should start really early.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Lucy. So my takeaway from that, start noticing the signs. It's not a problem that develops overnight. You need to be in tune with what's happening with your young person. And once you find those signs, you then engage with the school, who will develop a plan, because it's not an all or none kind of situation. Thank you very much for that. I'd like to move to Sam from Youth Upfront, which supports young people that are disengaged with schools by providing them engaging programs such as canine assisted learning, skills for life, and skills for work. What positive steps or mindsets can you suggest for parents to support their young person if they suspect or they appear to be disengaging from school?
Thanks, Seba. I think for us, some advice and not misaligned to a lot of things that have already been shared, I think, is starting that conversation early, noticing the signs. I think what we find is a lot of parents who end up reaching out to us reach us at a point where they have been consumed, and they're at, I guess, a point that in their parenting, I guess, field, think that, you know, once their kids have hit high school, that there's less of a role for them to play. And I think that's just a natural kind of transition from when you've gone from primary to secondary, and, you know, you're not volunteering at the canteen anymore, and you're not running around, and they're a little bit more self-sufficient. Something that I'm very passionate about at the moment is the current perfect storm that we have that's post-COVID, where kids in year 5, 6, 7, and 8, those key transitional years, have not had enough eyeballing time from educators, from parents, from everyone in the community. And what it's meant is it's created a huge amount of pressure in the education space. There's current pressures on families at home. The term we've heard a lot is parents have reached their parenting limit, I guess, as far as knowing what they can and can't do. So I think being able to reflect and look at how you can go back to good role modeling, and everything from phones down when you're at home, being present for your young person when you're at home, going back to routine. That's a massive thing for us. We're very passionate with our programs that unless it's got something to do with danger, we don't change anything within our programming structure or expectations of young people unless it's at the end of the year when we review. So unless it's a safety thing, we know young people talk, and they talk more than ever now with social media. They share about programs and experiences from service to service. So they're very quick to be able to circulate a negative experience if they haven't engaged well, or, you know, they've trusted someone to refer them somewhere. And in the same breath too, they also trust the good stuff that gets circulated around. So, you know, for us, what we found is making sure we stick to the expectations. And I think our advice to parents has always been around making sure you too stick to expectations. And sometimes at the moment it might be really frustrating, and you want to just slam the book down and, you know, pull privileges, but sometimes it's just worth taking a day and saying, look, I'm not really happy with that now. I think there's time for us to talk about your needs and my needs, but for today, we'll wear it, as long as they're obviously not in danger. But the conversation continues tomorrow, and we start, you know, by re-looking what your needs are and what our needs are, and that it's constantly evolving. So I think, you know, that's the one thing I've found with what we've experienced in working with young people, is that I think largely, and it's, you know, obviously aligned to EPIC, is that as parents, we're ill-equipped, but I guess our parents were ill-equipped too for what they went through. So it's a different type of ill-equipped. I think we've got a lot of technology challenges. We've got a lot of social emotional challenges. You know, for us, in the time that I've been with the organisation, complex has become more complex. You know, before you might have 1 or 2 challenges that a young person was facing. We did self-assessments with young people. We looked at goals. Now it's really hard to refine it down to 2 or 3 key things to focus on, because there's so much noise and so much busy for young people. So, you know, to what Lucy was saying, I think being able to help young people by role modelling, showing them good examples, and helping them see how you can simplify and quieten some of that noise so that they can refocus on the things that are important. So whether that is good habits at home, whether it's sleep, looking after themselves, or even just having good communications, going for a walk with a mum or a dad, you know, once a week, to be able to just talk about stuff, that's making it normal. Because once they've jumped ship from that space, and I mean, not jump ship as in become a teenager and, you know, just let loose and didn't pick up, but where they've disengaged, you have to work 10 times harder to bring them back into that circle of trust, for them to understand that you are there, not just as an authority figure or something like that as a parent, but you're there to help them. And it is a very fine line between being a parent and a friend. And I think sometimes that's where it's challenging with this generation. We want to help them, but I think with all of the other things that are at play, sometimes that can get a little bit out of control quite quickly. So, yep.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. I believe like your message is clear and has been echoed before. So be a good role model, be present, pick your battles, and perhaps think of every day as a new way. And it's something that Madeline was passionate about when we started EPIC. We are the first responders and we are the anchor. So if we are floating, then it's very hard to help our young ones. Cool. Catherine, I'd like to move on to you and ask you, as the work you do as a counsellor to vulnerable young people, I'm wondering if you can shed some light and provide some strategies that you found helpful to support young people who are disengaging from school.
Acceptance is possibly, one of the biggest words. Listening, empathy, and just, letting them have their time to speak. And also to discuss vulnerability of parents, because, I've often said to young people, parents aren't given a manual when you're born. They're learning as much as you're learning, and they're doing the best they can. So just normalising, yes, parents make mistakes, children make mistakes, and it's okay. Again, it's a constant thing. Keep the communication open. And remember, these young people, adolescence is a time of intense brain rewiring. Going from a child's brain where they, where you just soak up everything you hear, see, taste, you then enter a phase between the ages of 15 and 24 where you turn, the brain is going through a huge construction period. And this is when we actually are being pruned and we're losing connections so we can develop better connections, faster connections, and to develop a rational brain and an independent brain to take us through to adulthood. And as a result of this complete, reconstruction, a lot of things like an increase in impulsiveness with little or no reflection on their behaviour, experience of intense mood swings, that can be, rewiring of the brain, but it also can be hormones. They rely on the emotional brain rather than the rational frontal lobe, because at the moment that is really where the work's happening. They have difficulty reading social situations, communicating with others, especially the opposite sex, and they can be emotionally vulnerable. And we have to hear that from them and understand that from them and normalise it. I understand, I see that, I hear it, and I get it. And you're not different to everyone else. Their self-esteem and self-worth can be very, very low. And I work, I try and work on all their values and all the beautiful parts of them. I use a lot of love in my words and praise, and if they say something that sounds mature or something, like I'll jump on that, and so you've just reinforcing that they are fine, independent young people. They're just struggling at the moment. I'm sure a lot of all of our adolescents, when they grunt and they stuff like that, you think, where the hell has my child gone? Well, this again is this restructuring part of the brain. And they need love more than ever in this time because it's so freaking confusing for them. You hear about these tragic accidents where adolescents are driving, and we all go, God, what were they thinking? Well, the fundamental point is they weren't. They were having fun. They weren't thinking consequences because that part of the brain is being rewired. And, so unfortunately, there's a time where their brain just isn't working properly, and they're trying to learn so much as well. So I guess the way I'd like to approach it is, suggest that we use words of suggestion and not direction. Try and take the judgment out of everything. Avoid shame-based language. Encourage thinking and making choices of their own. Choose the right time to talk and use door openers. Like, if they obviously are not in the mood, don't go there. Just wait. Never argue. I mean, I know, yeah. Try not to argue. Try not to raise your voice, because you raise your voice, they raise your voice, and it just continues. So, time out. Come back when you're both calm. Imagine how they see the world, and there's just so much negativity and frightening news out there, which impacts on these kids. Imagine, seeing these wars and stuff like that, and saying, yeah, it kind of really scares me as well. So just honesty and open communication. But trust me, there'll be crap days when we do yell and we do, if you think I brought my child up, my 24-year-old daughter up with all my suggestions, you'd be wrong. I bet she's, a beautiful tattoo-covered punk rocker who's incredibly artistic and highly intelligent, but still struggles and still needs her mum and dad in her corner, with no judgment, and just listen and love. And I know there's days you could love a chair more, but, just say, try and use a lot of love language and support language. And hopefully, that'll help a little bit with these young people's self-esteem and self-worth.
Cool. Thank you very much for that, Catherine. And if I'm hearing you correctly, going forward, because I definitely have a daughter very similar to yours, just younger, we've still got time to go. From now onwards, I will try and imagine under construction, when I see your face. Hopefully that will help me. And
hormones.
Drown her with love, because it's the nurturing in our voice and our action that brings these kids around, not trying to up the ante with the arguments. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. And just like we've asked our other panelists who are experts in their fields, distill your experience, your knowledge in a sentence that our audience can take away with them, a nugget. If you were to tell them something, what would you say in one sentence, piece of advice? Can we start with you, Catherine? Please.
Yeah, I would listen. Don't talk over them and wait till they're finished. Because the moment you talk over them, you've lost them. Let them have their say. Make no judgment calls, and empathy and kindness all the way.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that. And Lucy, would you like to share something?
Yep, I'm going to follow on from that. Don't make assumptions. Instead, create a space that makes it safe to ask and safe to tell.
That's really good advice from both of you. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Samantha, please.
So a little bit more from a parent point of view, trust in that every day is a new day, and it's easy done, but to be able to show your child that judgment is not going to carry day to day, and be able to approach a new day, no matter how hurtful or nail biting the activities of the day before, rest assured that as has been said, if you're going to make mistakes, that's fine, but as parents, we're there to be able to catch and support and help guide them in the right direction so they learn from their mistakes.
Thank you very much, everyone. Maddie, back to you.
Thank you. It's wonderful information. Thanks, everybody. I just want to share one nugget of wisdom that from Epic. And our nugget is that please know that you're not on this journey alone. And for peer support or just friendships, know who's in your corner and reach out to them and find out who you can trust. So that's one big thing on the journey that we've had from the Epic crew is you're not alone, reach out, share the load. Okay. So I just want to quickly take this opportunity to let everybody know of the upcoming things that Epic has. We'd love to see you. We're having a little walk on Sunday, the 19th of November, so this Sunday, 2 p.m. If it rains, there's a cafe. We'll make sure that we've got shelter and we'll just have coffee and cake instead. So that's at North Narrabeen. I will send an email with a link to all of these events, but we would love to see you there. And if you do want to come, it would be good to, if you registered, just so that we know how big a piece of cake, how big the cake will need to be. And the other 3 things that I've got here are the next 3 Mondays, we've got more interactive webinars. So we've got Nick Kenny from Kids doing From Warriors to Warriors. So that's next Monday. The following Monday, we have Ripple Learning, and they're doing the conflict resolution skills. Really, really highly recommend. We've had them do it before, and they help you with the science behind the reactions and not reactions and things like that. And then our final one on the 4th of December is the wonderful Josie Wild, who helps us understand the vagus nerve and to help us moving into the festive season with mind-body regulation. So I just highly recommend that you have a look into these. Parents, non-parents, everybody, welcome. It's really worth doing. So I do say to everybody, the audience as well as the panelists, thank you, like really thank you. It is a very supportive community, and really just having been here for only 2 years, it's very, very welcoming. So I encourage all parents to reach out and know that there is support within our community. I do need to thank also the City of Ryde Council, who have supported this webinar. So thank you. So we are getting support from councils and other spaces as well. They're recognising the work that all these organisations are doing within our community. So just lots of thank yous, really. Oh, I do have a survey here, and that'll also be on the email. It's one of those things that we kind of have to link onto the end of these. So it's just so that we can make events more useful, or any topics that you feel that you might want to hear about. So please fill in the survey just so that we can learn more and how we can support everybody. But yay, happy birthday us, and thank you everybody. Thanks so much. Okay. Wow. Okay, so we'll say good night. That's 9 o'clock. We've done well, everybody. Welcome. Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, Madeline.
Thanks, Madeline. Thanks,
Thank
Eva.
you so
Well done, everyone.
much.
Amazing.
Thank you. Take care.
Well done, Matt.
Great. So appreciate
you.
it. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay, good night.
Bye.
See you.